our next speaker. And as we embrace the technology, we can't lose sight that service over sales is the most important thing. And so Joe Rand, he is the managing partner of Better Homes and Gardens, Rand Property, and he wrote a book, Disruptors, Discounters, and Doubters. Please give a hand to Joe Rand.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that warm introduction. It's frankly much more than I deserve. You're being very kind to me for someone you've never heard of before. I appreciate that. I got to tell you, when they told me I was speaking at almost 5 o'clock at an event that started at 8, I thought I was going to be me and maybe the people in the back behind the curtains there. So the fact that so many of you are still here, give yourselves a round of applause that you're still around, that you stuck it out. Now, you've had a lot of great content today, so I understand why you've been here. You've gotten a lot of great stuff. I've been here for a lot of it. But I know that when you're the guy standing between the cocktail party is next, I actually asked Danae, I said, Danae, if I just don't talk, do they get to go to cocktails earlier? She said, no, you have a contract. You have to go out and talk and do your thing. So I'm going to do my thing, and then there's a little wrap-up, and then there's chairman, whatever, there's a little cocktail reception afterwards. So I want to thank Danae and everybody for giving me the opportunity to be here. So I wrote this book. I wrote this book about disruption in the real estate space and why we're facing disruption. And the basic theory of the book is that we're facing these challenges because we have not been attentive as an industry to what the consumers need. We've not been attentive to the consumer experience in a way that we need to be. And when you don't pay attention to the consumer, bad things happen to you all over. We see it all over other types of industries, and it can happen to us as well. And it's just an example of how we haven't attended to the consumer interests. I give you the free CMA, all right? Every real estate agent in the industry at some point put on their business card, they put it on their ads, call me for a free CMA. Now, why did we have that? We had that on our cards because we knew there was a consumer need. People wanted to know what their home was worth, right? So the idea was, hey, if you need to know what your home is worth, call me for a free CMA. But it wasn't really free, was it? Because they had to sit through a listing presentation to get it, right? It's not the end. First, here's 23 points of my marketing plan. Here's pictures of me with my boss, and here's my awards and my reviews and everything like that. And then at the very end, here's your CMA. You can tell you what your home is worth. Nobody wants to sit through that. It's like those timeshare resorts, right? 4 hours timeshare, and then you get like a free stay. But nobody wants to sit through it because it's painful. So what we did was we took, as an industry, and we're all guilty of it as agents and brokers, is that we took this need that people had and we turned it into a sales opportunity. We weren't interested in servicing the consumer need. We were interested in what it could mean for us. Could we get a listing out of it? And so then what happened? Zillow happened. What happened was somebody came in and saw that there was a need that we weren't meeting. Even though we were fully capable of meeting the need, they saw there was an opportunity there. They came in, they built a $10 billion company on servicing that need. Right out from under us, right? And I don't think even at the time, I think they just said, well, people want to know how much their home is worth. Let's give them this tool, this estimate. It's not great, but at least they answer the question. So we'll give them this estimate, and we figure we'll make money on it somehow. Well, they figured out how to make money on it, didn't they? They eventually figured it out, and they're doing quite well. So good for them, bad for us, but we've missed it in so many different ways. We used to own the category of who do you want as your landscaper? Do you need a landscaper? Call me, I'm your realtor. You need a roofer? You need anybody to work around the house, electrician. You call me, do they call us now? No, because we never let them know that that was a thing that we were willing to do, because as an industry, we looked at it, we said, well, we don't get paid for recommending a roofer, so why should we do it? Well, other people saw the opportunity and took it. As an industry, we've not been focused on the consumer, we've been focused on ourselves, we've been focused on leads. You go to any kind of conference, not this one's an exception, but conferences where there's assembly of agents, you'll see tons of people in the meetings for leads. How to use social media to get leads, how to call FSBOs. Everyone's got a program, everyone's got a system. And you'll see nobody, you won't even see classes about how do you become great at your job, how do you do your job better. I'll give you an example that fits the entire industry. It's not just agents, it's more brokers and quite frankly, MLS systems and anybody that builds a website. We have spent collectively millions, maybe billions at this point of dollars on our websites. And our websites are so much better than they were 20 years ago. They have bells and whistles. We've got mapping. We've got Matterport videos. We've got all these pictures. We've got all this data now that you can get through our websites. But they're basically built for one thing, shopping. They're built for shoppers because they're designed for these call-outs. They're designed to get a shopper on the site looking and then pressing that button to become a lead. They're all built for that. They're not built for actual buyers, because when someone's actually buying a home, they start working with an agent, and what they generally do is they start sending that client alerts through your systems. So the client stops using Zillow, stops using the company website, stops using any of that stuff, because all they're interested in is getting a list of the listings that they can get from their agent. But even more telling is the fact that we spent all these millions of dollars on websites, and they do nothing for half our clients. Half our clients are sellers, and they have no reason. We don't even give them a login. There's no, the person signs the contract, they're gonna pay us thousands of dollars to list their home. We're like, thank you. They go on the website, and there's nothing there. The only reason they have to go on our website is to check to make sure that the listing's there. Now, we do a nice service for them because we list their home, we do all that stuff, but like, you would think, is there some reason for them to log in, to do something, to check on something? We've never done that because that's about servicing them. It's not about generating leads, and our whole orientation has been about how do we generate more business, not how do we take better care of the clients that we have. And that attitude, which permeates the entire industry, all of us, has had a dramatic effect on the experience that consumers have when they buy and sell a home. And I'll give you, here's the perfect example. I'm going to ask you a question I ask all my audiences, and I'm going to ask you to please raise your hand if you're willing to answer this question in the affirmative. And the question's this: how many of you, knowing what you know about the industry and knowing the people in the industry, would be willing to list your home with more than half of the agents in your system, in your system? Hello, anybody? Hello? Tap, tap, tap. Is mic on? Are we here? Nobody? 50%? Not a person in the room. 25%? Oh, this is a tough crowd. Oh my Lord. How many people here like ice cream? All right, good. I just want to make sure you were paying attention. All right, so you guys wouldn't even list with 25% of the members in your own organization, but yet, and I asked this of brokers, and none of the brokers raised their hand either. And I say, well, how many of you be willing to list your home with 50% of the agents at your own brokerage? And they all kind of look at each other like, eh. But yet we inflict them on consumers every day. We inflict people who are not competent to handle our own business. We inflict them on consumers every single day. That is how you get disrupted, my friends. That's how you get driven out of business, is that you don't pay attention to the consumer. You don't change as technology changes. You don't pay attention to the needs as needs change. Kodak had it. Kodak knew about digital photography and said, who's gonna like that? Ugh. You've seen Blockbuster, you've seen what's happening to taxi cabs. You can't ignore what the consumer needs, whether you are an agent, a broker, or an MLS system. So my book is about this concept that I call client-oriented real estate, okay? Which is, instead of being oriented towards sales or being oriented, we've always had, there's the broker-centric era, then there's the agent-centric era. It really needs to be the consumer-centric era. It has needed to be that for 15 years or so, but now we gotta catch up. Now, how do we do that? Well, I have a basic formula that I think really articulates how we need to address this challenge. And it's 3 parts. 1, we got to think expansively about what people need. 2, think creatively about how to service the need, and then execute well. And I put Zillow up there so you can think about how Zillow did that. Zillow identified what people needed. They thought creatively they need like some sort of estimate to tell them what their home is worth, but not just an estimate, some sort of zesty estimate. And then they came up with what they came up with. Then number 2, they built something that serviced the need. Click a button, find out how much your home is worth. It needed to be refined, it's getting better, but they made it available, and then they executed. I mean, Zillow has done an unbelievable job of executing on its plan over the last 10 years. Identify what people need, think creatively about how to service the need, execute well. That's the basic plan. So let's look at each of those things and how they relate to MLSs. First, think expansively about what people need, all right? There are companies that Apple has become the world's most valuable company by either creating or anticipating what people need before they even know that they needed it, right? With the iPod, no one even has an iPod anymore, but when it came out, it was revolutionary in the ease with which you could manage your MP3 files. They basically invented the smartphone. Yeah, we had Blackberries, but Blackberries, if you ever tried to go on the internet, was a disaster. We didn't have apps. They invented the App Store, right? I never knew I needed a computer in my pocket, and now I can't leave the house. It's not on my person. I put it away so I come out and speak, and I feel a little lost. I don't have my phone. What if I have to look up something? I figure one of you has your phone out. You can probably look it up for me. So Apple created the iPad, and when it came out, everybody was like, it's just a big iPhone. Who needs a big iPhone? Everybody needs a big iPhone. Everybody here, I'll bet 99% of the people here have tablets. They invented that category before we even knew what we had, before we even knew that we needed it. They created it. Look at a great company like McDonald's. McDonald's, which invented fast food. Fast food didn't exist as a category before McDonald's. They saw a need. They saw, well, there's more women working post-World War II, more women working. They don't have time to cook. They need a hot, good, consistent, cheap meal they can pick up on the way home and feed their kids with it. Fast food. McDonald's. They also invented franchising, for that matter. McDonald's is quite an amazing company. And then Starbucks. I never knew I needed 20 ounces of coffee every morning. I was content with those little cups, those little 12-ounce cups. That was fine. Now I see one of those cups, so I'm like, is that an espresso cup? What is that cup? That's not for coffee. I never knew I needed a frothy concoction of coffee and cream and sugar and whipped up into an essence right around 3:30 every day. Now I can't live without it. Think creatively, expansively about what people need. Maybe even think about before they need it, before you know what they need. So let's apply that. Let's think about that, how it applies to MLS systems. What do people need from their MLS? Well, I think the first question is to say, who's they? Who's the people? Who's the client of the MLS? You have to define that first. You have to know who you're trying to serve. Do you think about the end consumer, buyers and sellers? I don't have an answer to this, by the way. I'm asking questions. This is the part where you're going to have to think and answer it yourselves. Go back and think about, well, is it buyers and sellers? Is it agents? Is it brokers? Is it all brokers? Or just small brokers? Or just big brokers? Or does it make a difference? And big brokers need something different than small brokers. Productive agents that do a lot of business need something different than agents that do 2 or 3 deals a year. Who is your audience? Who are the people that you are going to serve? That's the first question you have to ask. And then once you do, you got to figure out what they need. And the best way to do that, and this is going to sound revolutionary, you ready for this? Get your pens out, write this down, is you ask them. Say, what do you need? This is a very underutilized question in our society. Everyone assumes they know what other people need in all walks of life. When you get home from the conference, if you have a spouse or a significant other, when you get home, you say to them, I was thinking about you, and I was thinking, what do you need from me? Ask it that way, not, what do you need from me? Not the angry way, the happy way. If you walk around in your life asking people and thinking about what people need and how I can give it to them, it is a really nice way to live your life. It makes you feel fulfilled. It's why the people who are happiest in their jobs, you know what the happiest job in the world is? Real estate agent? No, someone said real estate agent. That's terrible. Clergy. People love the clergy. They love their job. They have no money. Some of them can't do certain things that other people find pleasurable, but yet they are happy in their job because they service other people. They take care of other people. And that makes people happy. So think about what other people need. So go and ask them. Ask your members. Now I'll give you an example of what I did. I facilitated for an MLS. I facilitated a board retreat for an MLS this year. And we sat down, there were about 30 of them. And I was working with a director, the CEO of the MLS, who was new to that particular MLS and was concerned about kind of what did the board want to do? Which direction? Do they want to be ambitious, or do they really want it just to be, I put it here, a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being a utility where you're really just maintaining the platform so people can transfer offers of compensation, or all the way to a 10 where you have like HAR. You have like HAR, Bob Hale, where they're like consumer oriented and they build lots of tools and they're very aggressive and ambitious. Two different models. Well, 1 to 10, she was thinking, which way do they want to be? So we set up a very simple survey. There were 2 note cards. On the first note card, you wrote down, scale of 1 to 10, where is the MLS right now? Take out the second card. Scale of 1 to 10, where should the MLS be? Where should we be? And she thought it was about a 4, and she thought that the board would say 4, that they were where they needed to be. And she was surprised because the board did think it was a 4 on average, but on average the board wanted it to be a 7. They wanted a much more ambitious MLS than she thought they were ready for. Now, you might say, well, that's the board membership. That might not reflect the actual membership. But we all know lots of people go on the board precisely so they can restrain the MLS from doing too much, right? So the fact that the board felt that way, I mean, you have to then go to the full membership, but asking them, what do they need? What can we do? What do you need from me? Is a very important question that we need to be asking if we are to implement the kind of changes that will help the people that we're trying to help. All right, so need. What do people need from the MLS? Second, we got to think creatively about how to service that need. How do we go and take that need? What services will help service that need? What systems? What can we put in place? What programs? You have to be creative in thinking about them. Don't just fall back on the same old thing that everybody's done before. Think about something new. So I give you some examples here. Netflix is a great example. The history of the video rental business is by itself a fascinating history if you go back and look at it. All right? People don't even realize. Younger people, I'm in my 50s, but people in their like 30s don't even realize that there was a world before video rental. In fact, there was a time when you would watch a movie and that's it. You go to the movie theater, you watch the movie, you'll never see that movie again. Like it never came out again. There were like special movie houses that played old movies. That was the only way you could go see a movie that had been out in the theaters years before. And then like there was like the Sunday night at the movies. ABC had like one movie a week you'd get to watch. You didn't get to watch movies. So then in the late 70s, the technology developed to allow people to get the movies on VHS. And this very enterprising guy identified a need that people would love to watch these at home because now they had VCRs where they could do it, but the movies were very expensive. They were like $100, $120 a copy. Who wants to own a movie for $120? So he said, well, maybe they'll rent it. So he bought all the movies, started renting them out, and an industry was born. He became very wealthy. Had a fight on copyright issues. I think it went all the way to the Supreme Court because they didn't want him doing that. The movie theaters or the movie studios didn't want him doing it. They had no idea. Sometimes you have no idea what's going to be really good for you. The movie studios were like, this video rental business, this isn't going to be good for us at all. It worked out okay. So he got rich, and then all across the country, do you remember the mom and pop video stores every town had? You went down to the corner, they had like 20 movies, right? You went in, you got whatever was there. But they were everywhere. You had a little membership card, you went in, you rented the movie. Then what came up? Blockbuster came. Blockbuster came up with a better system to service the need. They really did. Blockbuster was an amazing company. Instead of a mom and pop shop with like 500 square feet and like 100 movies, they got these big giant stores well lit with every movie. And when the new release would come out, they'd buy hundreds of copies. So you never couldn't get the movie you wanted. So they created this amazing system that serviced that need, that made everybody happy. Except that Blockbuster had one flaw in their business plan. What was the flaw? What did everybody hate about Blockbuster? The late Be Kind Rewind. Yeah, that was one. The Be Kind Rewind. I never remember to rewind. People under 30 are like, rewind what? What do you rewind? What are you talking about? It's tough, man. So, no, it was late fees. That was the worst. You rent it, Friday night was Blockbuster night. So you go rent a movie, you're so excited, you watch it. It's in the machine for like 4 days. Does anybody remember which of these is my water? Because I feel bad. I'm just taking this one. Right? So you'd rent it on Friday. It'd sit in the machine for like 3 days. Then you take it out. Maybe you remember to rewind it. You put it back in the box. You put it in your car. And there it is on your passenger side seat. You go to work. I have to drop it by on the way back. You drive home. You get home. Like, oh, forgot the movie. Next day, get in the car, go to work, come back. Oh, I forgot the damn. A week later, it was $25 to rent that movie because they hit you with all those late fees. That movie that was $3 is now $20. You could have bought the movie at that point. Everybody hated late fees. So then what happened? Their system got supplanted by a better system, which was Netflix, their subscription service, which, again, you young people, you don't know, Netflix wasn't always a streaming service. It was a DVD rental service. Ask your neighbor what a DVD is. It's a DVD rental service that you would get by subscription where you'd sign up for like, you know, $10 a month. You get 3 movies in the mail. You'd watch one of them. You put them back in the envelope. You mail them away using the mail. I don't have time to explain all these concepts to you, but yes, the mail, you would mail it back, and then you get another one back. So you would, and they killed Amazon, destroyed it. It was like a $10 billion company that became nothing because of Netflix. And then Netflix, really smart company, worth watching. They then didn't let themselves get knocked out by streaming. They became the dominant streaming service, and they still are. Adapt to the needs, create systems to service the need. That's what we need to do. That's what Amazon has done. That's what Uber has done. They just keep adapting and creating great systems to service the needs of their consumers. So let's think about the MLS. What is the core competency of the MLS? The core competency of the MLS is that you create a market. That's what Danae has as the theme of one of these programs that she's running. You guys make the market. The MLS makes the market. I write about this in my book about the fact that buying a home is easier than buying a car because our market is transparent and it's fluid and it just works. You want to buy a car, you have to, if you want to buy a $50,000 sedan, you got to go to this dealer and that dealer and that dealer and that dealer. You go to every dealer because every dealer's got their own inventory. They don't share with anybody else. You walk in, nobody's working for you. You have no information about what they sold the car for last week, that same car, what it sold for last week. You know, you buy a house, what happens? You work with any agent, they can show you any property in the market. They represent you. You walk in to negotiate, they're working on your behalf, and they have expertise in doing that. And you have perfect information. You know what every other home that has sold recently has sold for. That's a great market. That's what we create together. And that's what's so frustrating about some of these disruptors, right? Because they look at that market and they say how, they live off that market at the same time that they're trying to destroy it, okay? What I mean by that is think about like a company that does a discount option, like, oh, we're a discount, we charge less, but they charge less, but they're not offering out anything to the buy side. So they're not living up to the two-sided deal. They're doing a one-sided deal, which means that they have to work out something. There's gonna be something lost there. Some fluidity is gonna be lost. Think about Open Door. Open Door is able to function because it can run an AVM looking at a property. Someone gives their address, answers some basic questions, they run their AVM, and they come up with a value, they make the offer, they buy the house. What is the AVM based on? It's based on the market that we create. Without the market we create, how are they going to make the offers? How are they going to know that they're dependable? They'll get killed. They don't want to be more than a small piece of the market because if they upend the two-sided deal, if they upend MLS, well then the market becomes chaos. You lose fluidity. You lose transparency. Too many off-market transactions destroys the market. That's the value. That's the core competency. It's what MLSs do, right? And when you get people, and I've occasionally been a person who feels this way, the level the playing field folks, the people like, MLS, don't do anything because you're going to level the playing field because I'm a big broker and I don't want you doing stuff that's going to level the playing field between me and other brokers. And I say, I love my MLS. My MLS is right here somewhere. Yeah, the Haggerty. There's the Hudson Gateway MLS, one of my favorite MLSs. And they do a wonderful job, and all the other MLSs I belong to are all wonderful as well over in the Northeast in New York. But I still, there's that essence of like, do I want the MLS to do too much? Well, you know what? Nobody, even the don't level the playing field people, they can't complain when the MLS improves situations that facilitate cooperation. Where it's not neutralizing an advantage a big broker might have, it's helping grease the wheels of integration between them. Like as a broker, I can't enforce certain things. I can't do certain things. I can't make other brokers do things a certain way, but the MLS can. The MLS can create efficiencies that individual brokers cannot. Facilitating efficient cooperation is not leveling the playing field. Doing things that make it easier for brokers to cooperate is not leveling. So let me give you some just quick examples off the top of my head about things that we could do. Well, one, more collaboration platforms. What about a uniform way to make offers? Right now, offers are made in all sorts of different ways. What about like a uniform platform where you make the offer, if there's another offer that comes in, the seller can compare them side by side because they're in a standardized format that everybody uses the same? Maybe think about, God, there'd be a way to like acknowledge that there are multiple offers on the property so that nobody would suspect that there aren't multiple offers, they're just trying to goose my offer up higher. Think about all the different ways that the MLS could be a referee to make sure that offer and acceptance process is handled correctly. What about transaction communication? People talk about transaction management. A lot of times all you really need is some basic platform of communication whereby the sides can get updates to one another without having to pick up the phone and call or text each other. That's a possibility. We're already doing scheduling, showing, and feedback in some markets. There's a lot of markets that are using programs that do that. Those programs could be better. E-signatures, a lot of people are doing that, but that's the same idea. It's so much better if everybody's on the same platform for stuff like that than if they're on different platforms. What about buyer registration? My gosh. Every seller gets registered in the MLS. Every buyer, no one knows. Ask me how many listings I have. Ask me how many sellers I'm working with. I can tell you exactly how many sellers I'm working with. Ask me how many buyers. I got 1,000 agents. How many buyers is my company working with? I have no idea. I find out about the buyer deals when they close. That's when my agents tell me about them. So what if there was some sort of buyer registration? That would help brokers. What if it was a way of like, you sign somebody to an agreement and you submit the agreement? Why do we treat sellers different from buyers? Why do we treat them differently? It's the same, it's the flip side of the transaction. And what about competency education? What if the MLS and the boards took on not just continuing ed on things that are scary, but actually helping people deliver a better consumer experience? Those are services that I think people need, that I think would not be a level the playing field objection, but would actually be things that would facilitate the relationships between brokers. Third, we got to execute. Identify what people need, create systems to service the need, execute well. Think about execution always gets overlooked as being an important part of this. But, and I've given you examples of needs like creative needs and like creative systems, but you can build a really good business just by addressing a very well-established need, using a proven system, as long as you execute well. You want to open up an Italian restaurant? People need Italian food. No surprise. I'm going to have good recipes. That's my system. But I need to execute. Because we've all been in good Italian restaurants. We've all been in bad Italian restaurants. It all comes down to how you execute on those recipes, how you execute on your service plan, how good your waiters are, how good how clean your place is, things like that. We need to be able to execute. And you can see here, these are companies that are known for their execution. They're known for their client experience that they create by execution. Walt Disney is a theme park. I'm surprised I even got the Walt Disney logo into the building. I'm looking at it now, I'm like, it's the first time I've seen that logo all day, because it's like the one place in Orlando, you'll never see it. But Walt Disney, we know Disney World is different from other theme parks in the way that the attention they pay to the consumer experience. Four Seasons is different from other hotels. Nordstrom is different from other department stores. They might sell the same stuff, but it's different because of the way they execute on their plan, the consumer experience that they try to create. And that's what we need to be focused on. Figure out what people need. Figure out the services that you can provide to them. And then go and execute. But pay attention to how you execute. Pay attention to the little things. Because if you pay attention to little things, you know what? All sorts of good, big things happen. And I'll give you just one quick story that I call bringing the wow. It's the idea that if you do little things over and over again, you do them the right way, you put yourself in a position to create a magical experience. Rock salt. Guy in upstate New York. Every year, he would buy his top referral clients on the first day of snow. This was like in Albany somewhere. So the first day of snow is like right around now, September sometime. And for the first day of snow, he would go and he'd buy a 20-pound bag of rock salt. He'd put a little thank you note on it. He'd tie it to the rock salt, and he'd go and drop it off at the houses of the people. He would knock. If they weren't home, he'd leave it there. If they were, he'd have a little conversation with them. It was a nice little thing that he did for 25, 30 people every year. People would send him referrals, people he was working with, he had worked with. So he does it, and then one year he gets a call from a really top referral source who says to him, the guy's name is Bob, I guess. Says, Bob, I gotta tell you something. What happened? I was out with my wife, and we're at the doctor's, and we got some not so great news, and we're really depressed, and we're really down, and we're driving home, and it starts to snow, and I think to myself, oh God, I need to go out and get rock salt. I can't stay home with her, I can't be with her, I gotta go out and get rock salt to make sure it doesn't ice up. And as we pull into the driveway, I see the bag of rock salt that you left for me. And we both just start crying, my wife and I. Now that's a consumer experience. But you can't create that consumer experience unless you're doing the little things that you're paying attention to. Unless you're thinking about what people need. They need rock salt on the first day of snow because nobody has the rock salt from the previous year. They need the rock salt. So I'll give it to them. And like, it's probably a nice thing. People come, oh, rock salt, fantastic. But he put himself in a position to have an amazing experience. An experience that, it's a story, who knows how many times that guy has told that story, the person who had the rock salt at their house, in promoting this, I mean, in terms of what, I've told the story a million times. I can't tell you how many times this guy has told the story. So that's what I wish for you, is those kinds of experience that if you pay attention to what your clients want, that's what you can get from them. My friends, thank you so much. I appreciate the time that you stuck with me today. And one last thing, if you go right now to joerand.com/CMLS, take out the one-time a speaker is going to say, you go take out your phones. Take out your phones, take out your tablets, joerand.com/CMLS. You get the discount, Disruptors, Discounters, and Doubters book. You get an ebook, you'll be able to download it to whatever device, and you'll have it in an email so you can download it to your tablet later. Thank you all very much. I appreciate the time.